The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar sponsored by Intertek. I'm Jacqueline Shawn, Marketing Manager for the Electronic Security Association. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. All callers will be muted for the duration of this webinar, so please be sure to use your question or your chat log to submit all questions, and these will be addressed at the end of the webinar. Additionally, a recording of the webinar will be available in the members-only resource library at esaweb.org. This will be under the resources section, and CE credits are available for attending, so please be sure to check your chat log shortly for instructions on how to request your accreditation form. Today's webinar, A Guide to the Latest Regulatory Changes in Access Control, is presented by Tom Connaughton, Global Director of Life Safety and Security at Intertek. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Tom.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar, and I would like to thank you in advance for your time and your participation. One of the things that I would like to outline is for those of you that stay tuned throughout the next 45 minutes or so, there will be a special offer for both the manufacturers as well as the alarm service companies that make it through the end of this presentation. So please stay tuned because there's some exciting opportunities at the end here that you and your organization will be able to take advantage of. One of the things that I wanted to start out with was just to kind of highlight what this discussion is going to be today. This discussion is really going to be a high-level, 20,000-foot view, if you will, of the changes that are occurring with the ANSI UL 294, the access control standard, and what the implications are from a manufacturer as well as from an integrator and an installer. There's quite a change occurring that we feel that all of the key members that make up the ESA will be able to take advantage of. There are no silver bullets here today. Fortunately, we've kept those silver bullets in our laboratories where we have multiple engineers that are going to be available to work with you and your organization to meet either your new component or product designs, as well as to help the integrators and the installers understand what are the changes and how are those changes going to be applicable to the properties or the premises that you're designing these installations for. A quick high level on who I am. Again, my name is Tom Connaughton. I've worked with Intertek for 15 years now. It'll be actually 15 years in December. I am the Global Director of Intertek's Life Safety and Security businesses, overseeing operations in the United States, the UK, and China. In addition, I am also responsible for business development within the Middle East. And as you can see by the screen, I participate quite actively in several trade associations and technical panels and so forth. So I try to get involved as much as I can. One last item before we move forward to the next slide is, what we wanted to do was provide a high-level summary of some of our certification marks, and you'll see that underneath my picture on the screen right now. You'll see the ETL mark, which is there on your left-hand side. That is Intertek's mark for compliance and certification for electrical products. In addition, you'll also see the WHI, or the Warnock Hersey mark. This is our building products division. Again, part of Intertek, and the leader in wood fire doors. So if you're out in the field and you're doing installations and you're looking at various door jambs and so forth, I'm pretty confident you're going to be very familiar with the WHI mark. So what I really kind of wanted to do here was just kind of connect the dots and let you know that the organization that you've been working with in regards to passive fire protection, in particular fire doors and the one at Percy Mark, that's Intertek as well. So what, just diving right into it, what I wanted to just do is very briefly outline what we're going to be covering here today. And again, we're looking at this from a 20,000-foot view. We are excited to talk to each and every one of you at a very, very low standpoint, you know, right down to sitting across from you, whether it's in our laboratory, in a conference room, in your office, et cetera, going through your product, going through your deliverable to the industry, and understanding how we can work with you. So some of the areas that we're going to be talking to today are what are the effects to the product, what has been and what will be the path to change, what are the standard changes to the product, what are the next steps, and then, of course, always looking ahead. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive right into the UL 294, which is the standard for access control here in the United States. We're going to speak to the standard, the change, and the effects. First, we need to understand what are we talking about here. We are talking about the ANSI UL 294 standard, which is the standard for safety for access control units. What it speaks to is the minimum requirements that apply to the construction, the performance, and the operation of physical access control equipment and or systems intended to regulate or control. Currently, we are working with the 5th edition of this standard, but the whole catalyst behind this discussion today is to speak to the forthcoming 6th edition requirements, which as of today, the published effective date is December 2nd, 2015. It's right around the corner. So that's why we thought it was in the best interest of the industry to put this information out now so that you can start to put together your roadmap for success moving forward. So what we're going to speak to right now is some of the changes that have occurred. Basically what we're looking at is we're looking at an international alignment of the U.S. or the North American-based standards, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And what is that? That's alignment with the IEC, the international standards. We're also going to be touching on what some of these changes are, which now the new standard incorporates, performance requirements along with what we tested for in the past, which was electromechanical shock, hazard, fire, etc. Now we're going to be taking it a step further here with the new edition of the standard and actually qualifying the performance of the product. Which is obviously something that is quite important when we're talking about security and the fact that people are going to always be looking for ways to circumvent any security protocols that are in place. So the actual performance of the product is becoming more paramount every day. Some of the changes that have occurred is there is a tiered performance scale that has been put in place, and we'll touch on that a little bit further. So there's various levels and grades that the new products are going to be tested to against the 6th edition. And this is an area that we feel is equally important for the alarm installer and integrator as it is for the equipment manufacturer. You need to understand what type of product you are recommending for any specific property that you're seeking to provide protection services for. And then lastly, we're going to touch on product scope expansion and those next steps. So, just to dive right into it, the 3 primary stakeholders that are actually extremely well represented by the ESA organization are the manufacturers, the installers, and the integrators. from a manufacturing standpoint, what we're looking at is we're looking at target market decisions. In other words, where does your product sit today? What are you going to be able to design it to as far as the various grades and levels that are now being offered, which would then allow you to open up potential new markets and new opportunities for customers, installations, and ultimately monitoring and so forth. What we're talking about also is product changes. In order to meet these various levels and grades, these products are going to need to be revised. And that leads us to our third bullet, which is engineering design changes. What are those changes? What is going to put you and your product into the best situation to be competitive and to generate that return on an investment that you put forth in getting your product to that next level? Next, we're going to be outlining the impact to what is the alarm service company, the installers. The intent here is to, again, provide an overview. When you're looking to source various types of equipment for a specific property or situation, you need to understand what those options are and what they actually mean. So that'll cover, what are they installing? What are the effects to the overall system? Going from a 5th edition product to a 6th edition product, and then eventually to a 7th edition product. And then lastly, there is an impact as well from an NRTL, which is an acronym for Nationally Recognized Testing Laboratory. And there are 2 laboratories that operate what's called a Certificated Alarm System Program, where we would go and we would compare the installation practices of an alarm service company against either the NFPA code when we're talking to fire, or speaking to some of the more specific ANSI UL standards, and how the installation, the inspection, and the maintenance is being executed against those standards. As you can see on your screen, you're going to see 2 certification marks. One of them is the Intertek ETL mark, and then the other one is Underwriters Laboratories. We are the only 2 certified accredited laboratories in North America that are servicing the security equipment manufacturer space, as well as the alarm installer and integrator space as well. So, for the sake of education, I thought it was important to make sure that everybody on this call understands the choices that are out there. While they are limited to a degree, at least you still have a choice, and that's a really important item to make sure that we take away with it. You do have a choice. It doesn't have to be one single certification organization. It can be either or both. Depends on what your business model is. And then lastly, just speaking to the integrators, the folks that are looking at the overall system security level, and how do I make all of these little bits and pieces work? And in order to make all the little bits and pieces work, we need to understand what is the minimum requirements, what are those changes that have occurred, and how are they going to impact me when I'm making those decisions and those recommendations in regards to what type of system I'm going to install in that protected premise. So moving on, we're going to be talking now to the UL 294, again, the access control standard for North America. What are the drivers, details, and the options? Well, it's important to understand that regardless as to what we're looking at, there is always a path to change. Something starts and there's always an end position as well. And all of this discussion starts in the standards technical development process, or the STP, if you will. Intertek sits and is a part of the standard technical panel for the ANSI UL 294 standard. And what that is it's a conglomerate of industry stakeholders that get together and discuss where this standard is today and where it's going. That would be an Intertek and an underwriter's laboratory as an example, equipment manufacturers, authorities having jurisdiction, such as a fire marshal or an electrical inspector, as well as members from the alarm service company community as well, whether you're an installer, an integrator, or a central station, or all of the above. What we've seen, which is actually very encouraging from a global commerce perspective, is specifically to the security standards. There's a closer alignment today with the 6th edition of this standard to that of the Canadian, as well as to the IEC, or the international standards. So we're starting to see more of a closer alignment between the United States, Canada, and the European Union, as an example, in regards to product design, functionality, and certification. There are market changes that continue to evolve, and one of the key items that continues to evolve that is technology. Every day I turn on the television, or every day I pick up a security magazine or a fire magazine, and there's always some new and innovative product that is coming out. Well, as new and innovative product and technology launches, that's going to drive market changes, which is going to then drive standard changes, which then gets us right back to the standard technical panel meetings. Following that, there is a continuous evolvement of the standards, whether they are an ANSI UL standard, an IEC standard, an NFPA standard. All of these standards need to continue to be updated. So that's going to continue to drive change and to drive innovation in our industry. Excuse me, I went way too far. Wrong button. Big fingers, wrong button. Sorry. Okay, we're back. So as we continue through this, we're going to continue to, again, reinforce the international alignment, the additional performance requirements, the scope expansions, and the tiered performance requirements. As I outlined a little bit earlier, the international alignment, that is taking what is a United States-based standard and aligning the performance and the safety requirements to that of the Canadian, the IEC, and the EN standards. To a manufacturer, that's a big plus, because now you're not generating 3 different types of products to meet 3 different types of market. You're getting closer to being able to generate one product that meets these 3 or 4 intended markets. So that obviously is going to speak to less R&D. It's going to speak to less inventory and so forth. And ultimately, it's going to also speak to less involvement from third-party organizations such as ourselves. Additional performance and additional requirements. Again, we're speaking to the incorporation now of how does your device perform? How does it perform in a 2-minute or a 4-minute or a 5-minute attack scenario? So we're seeing now a continued evolution beyond, okay, if I install this product, is it going to cause an electrical shock hazard, a fire hazard, or some type of mechanical hazard? Well, we're taking it now beyond what kind of hazard may this product produce if it's not built properly or if it's installed improperly. But we're taking it a step further now, and we're saying when this device is called into action, meaning there is an event occurring, somebody that is not supposed to be gaining access to a property or to a premise, they're now attempting to do that. How is this device going to work? How is it going to perform? And that's extremely important based on what we do for a living. Now, we protect people, we protect lives, we protect families, we protect property. If the devices that we're installing are not going to function properly, we've lost that mission. And as security professionals, that is a mission we can't lose. So that's what, again, makes this new evolution of the standard, in my opinion, exciting, because now we're testing the functionality. But one of the other items that I did want to also make sure that we touch on is not only are we looking at how the product performs, but some of these new changes are going to also drive changes in how we market the product, how we mark and label the product, what our installation and our operation manuals look like. So the changes are not going to be simply against the product itself, but everything that is provided with that product to support its successful installation, operation, and ultimately the service of that product. So, you know, there's more changes just to the physical attributes of the product. There's also a tiered performance section, which I have a much bigger picture on, so we won't waste too much time on that. But as you can see by the screen, what we're looking at is we're looking at 4 different types of levels or grades of the product, as well as 4 different types of testing that speak to destructive, attack testing, line security, endurance, and standby power. So these are all things that are going to be extremely important to understand from both the manufacturer's perspective as well as, again, the installer and the integrator perspective as well. So as you can see, we have on the screen now a very high level. It's quite a busy screen. I will admit that. But one of the things that I also just wanted to outline very briefly is this information that you're seeing on your screen today and the information that was used in the generation and the creation of this document is all available on an Intertek white paper. And we will be resending out at the end of this call as a follow-up the link to everybody that has registered so that you can download this white paper and you can utilize that as a blueprint to move forward. So as you can see, just looking at the top level here, the destructive attack testing, a level 1, when you're looking at a level 1 product, there's no attack testing required. Now, fast forward to level 4. There's quite a difference, especially for those of us that are in the industry and understand what a 5-minute attack could be on a product. That's a lot of time. So as you can see, there is a dramatic difference between a level 4 complete certified product versus that of a level 1. So this is all information, again, that you need to understand and you need to digest from an equipment manufacturing standpoint. How involved do we want this product to be? Do we want this to be a level 4 across the board? Okay, that's what we need to do. Well, we're going to have to build an extremely robust system. Or are we going to be looking to sell a level 1 type system where obviously there's going to be less involved with the development and the overall testing program? But again, from an installer and an integrator perspective, you're looking at a school. Do I really want to recommend a level 1, or do I really want to recommend a level 4? Again, knowledge is power, and without understanding what these tiered performance levels are, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So one of the things that we did want to touch base on was what are some additional changes that we've seen. Well, we've seen technology continue to advance, and some of those advancements are in the biometrics. Different types of enclosures. Why would I need a different type of an enclosure? Well, an enclosure that is going to satisfy a level 1 is going to be a very different product when we're talking about satisfying a level 4 requirement. Power over Ethernet. Lithium batteries, as another example. What we've seen is in the evolution of this standard, the components that make up the system are now being required to be tested and certified to meet their applicable standards. So as a good example, we're talking about lithium batteries. The ANSI UL 294 6th edition standard is now stating that the batteries that are going to be incorporated with the product must meet the ANSI UL 1642 standard. So now, from a testing laboratory perspective, we now have to take an additional look at what type of batteries you're using. Have they been independently tested? Are they being monitored quarterly to make sure that the product as it was tested yesterday is the same product that is being created today? So, and as you can see here, these are some excerpts directly out of the standard and actually directly right out of our white paper, where it's speaking to additional requirements that the components of the system are required to meet. And as you can see by bullet number 3 on your screen right now, lithium batteries must comply with the requirements of 1642. So as you can see, the standard has gotten much more rigid from an overall performance and functionality perspective, all the way down to what are the little bits and pieces that make up that product, and what additional surveillance has been made on those bits and pieces that make up this entire reliable system. And as you can see, there's some just additional excerpts, again, which you'd be able to find in our white paper, or you'd be more than welcome to talk with some of our certification engineers to understand the impact either to the product design or the implementation of the product in the field. So we're at a point now where we have to make some decisions. How will the product be used? Where will it be installed? What type of product are we? What level of compliance do we need? What changes are needed? What's the timeline? And I guess the biggest question is where can I even begin? How do I even start this? Because it sounds like it's a really, really big process. Well, if you have the right partner, it's not that overwhelming. And the key word there is partner. So the very, very first step that you can take is designing for compliance. And what does that mean, designing for compliance? Well, again, having been in this industry now for 15 years, you would be amazed. I'm still amazed. And how often, I'll sit down with a new customer or an organization that is looking to enter into a new space, and you ask them a very simple question. Okay, well, you have a copy of the standard, right? You would be shocked at how many times somebody is looking to supply or to submit a new product where they haven't even taken the time, or they didn't know, okay, to be fair, that standard is out there. They just know that they need to have their product tested. Okay, that's great. But understanding you need to have your product tested and not understanding what that entails, that's a real big pitfall. So the first thing that you and your engineering team need to understand is, let me get a new version of this standard. Let me get the 6th edition of the 294 standard. And let me go through my product line by line against the standard and understand how close or how far I am. If you don't feel you have the ability to do that, you can always reach out to your certification partner. As I outlined earlier in this discussion, when we're talking about security, and we're talking about security products, we're talking about the certification of security products, also taking it a step further, understanding and having the ability to have your alarm service company, your installation company, third-party approved. You need to find the right certification partner. And each laboratory is going to have their own means of meeting your goals. And what I'm trying to speak to here is, ask the question, what can you do for me that's going to help me get my product to market quickly and efficiently? Because at the end of the day, what are we all interested in? We're all very, very interested in recurring monthly revenue, and we're also very, very interested in recovering the return on investment. Okay? And you can't receive that return on an investment until you're actually out selling your product and starting to generate revenues. So, find out, what is your certification partner? How can they help you? Is there a gap analysis that can be done from the 5th edition of the standard to the 6th edition of the standard? Is there a preliminary design review where the laboratory will take a very high level and a cursory review of your products against the new the new changes that are incorporated in the standard? Does this laboratory have the capability of providing me with a compliance engineer that can actually come into my facility once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever it is, that is available for my engineering team to sit down with and interpret the standard? As an independent laboratory, we can't sit there and say, this is what you need to do in order to get compliance, okay? Because that would violate our independent third party. So what we can do is we can look at your designs, we can look at your products, we can talk to your engineers, review what that new implementation is, and then respond whether or not it does or does not meet the intent of the standard. So there's a lot of different services that are out there. It's understanding who your partner is and how far they are willing to go to work with you, again, without violating their third-party accreditations or their independent status, but how far they're willing or they can work with you to get your product to market, or how far we can work with you as far as the implementation and the installation of the product so that it meets code and it meets the requirements that are out there today. Because there's another thing that's really important, is understanding that standards will always be behind technology. It's just the nature of the beast. So understanding what type of partnership I have with my certification partner and what type of knowledge base that they have that's going to allow me to utilize this new and innovative technology and at the same time limit my liability. Then the last, and I would say probably as equally important of a step, is understand and work with your laboratory to get a schedule in place. And why is that important? Again, leveraging my 15 years of experience, I've seen far too often, as an example, a December 2015 effective date of this standard, people looking to submit their products for the first time to meet the new edition of the standard in September, October, or November. I got news for you. You look to submit your products for a Q4 effective date, Q3, odds are you are not going to get to where you need to be. As I outlined earlier, there are 2 primary laboratories that are offering this type of certification, but there are a lot more of you folks out there that are designing, upgrading, inventing new products. So you really need to work with your third-party laboratory and establish some realistic timelines as to when you're going to be able to submit your product. Understanding that very few products will go through the regulatory process without a failure. It's just the nature of the beast. So you need to allot for scheduling, okay? You need to allot for a failure or a redesign. Again, not trying to scare anybody on this call, but you have to plan ahead. You will not be able to submit your product 30 days before the deadline and be able to meet those expectations. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered that because we've seen it more times than I'd like to. So as we're getting close here towards the end of my rant, one of the things that I also wanted to kind of outline is, to the 6th edition and beyond. What we're talking about is the 6th edition requirements. They're the minimal requirements. You're going to continue to see, the ANSI UL standards updated. They will be updated based on necessity. The ANSI process requires the standards to be updated frequently. On top of that, you're continuing to see technology advancements, which will continue to drive standards change. And then, unfortunately, there are some other drivers that are beyond our traditional control, which, when you turn on the news, you see daily. There was a shooting in a mall last night here in New Jersey. You have, Fort Hood incident. You have unfortunate incidents throughout various schools, hospitals, airports. So not only will technology continue to drive standard evolution, but the world we live in will unfortunately also drive innovation and change in the way that we do things daily. So just to kind of bring this back to the center here, the effective stakeholders that are represented on this call are manufacturers, they are installers, and they are the integrators. So one of the things that I did promise everybody at the beginning of this call was there was going to be some special offers that we're going to be putting out there, or we are putting out there, for folks that were able to stay on the line and listen to me for the last 45 minutes or so. If you're an alarm installer and you sign up and you're able to become an Intertek ETL listed alarm service company, your first 10 certificates that you pull and release are going to be free. And that is a $500 value. Each initial certificate is $50, and then the annual renewal. Couldn't get that out. I apologize. is $25. So there's an initial $500 savings for the installers. And then for the manufacturers, what we're also offering is a free gap analysis. So if you're currently an ETL listed customer and you're listed to the 5th edition and you want to upgrade your product to the 6th edition, with a signed quotation, we're going to provide you with a free gap analysis. If you're currently listed by one of our competitors, that same opportunity is going to apply to you as well. If you look to convert your product over to Intertek, and you're going to look to go from the 5th to 6th edition, we're going to provide you with that free gap analysis, which is going to outline any immediate deviations from the new version of the standard and your product and how it's designed today. We have here on the screen some contact information to take advantage of either or both of these offers, depending on who your organization is. If you're currently an Intertek ETL listed customer, you can contact your sales rep directly, and they'll be able to help you. Otherwise, you can contact our inquiry center, and you can see the email there is icenter@intertek.com, or via the phone at 1-800-967-5352, and mention this special offer, and you would be set up to take advantage of it. Just in closing, one of the things that we also wanted to outline is, Intertek is committed to working with the industry and partnering with the industry to make sure that you have the most up-to-date and relevant information so that you can make the right decisions for your business and for your employees and for your shareholders, et cetera, et cetera. So with the kickoff of this initial webinar, actually next week, I will be in our Lake Forest, California facility, and we will be running a lunch and learn there, where we're going to be going into a more in-depth technical discussion. We will have our lead technical engineer at the facility. We will also be offering free preliminary design reviews to the first, I believe, 5 or 6 customers that do show up. So there's going to be some additional value added there. We will also be attending and participating in the ESA Leadership Summit in January. We will also be presenting on this very subject, again, a much more technical-based discussion at the ISC West event in Las Vegas, April 2nd through the 4th. And we will also be putting together additional lunch and learns, like the one that we're going to be running at Lake Forest. And we will be looking to run those out of various Intertek laboratories in North America. Currently, we have 26 laboratories in the U.S. and in Canada. And we'll be looking to bring this show on the road and to provide as much support as we possibly can to more of the local market. So in summary, we spoke to the effects to the product, the path to change, the standard changes, what the next steps are, and looking ahead. So I hope this was at least a 20,000-foot view for the folks that are on this call. I do want to stress that we have technical experts that are ready to work with you in our laboratories across North America to help you on the more in-depth technical questions and discussions. And, we are here to work with you, and we really want to see you and your organization be successful and to get your products out to market where they're going to be the most useful. You could have the most revolutionary and innovative product in the world, but if it's stuck in a testing laboratory or in a warehouse, it's not doing anybody any good. And we look forward to working with you and helping you achieve those goals. My contact information is now on the screen, as well as our inquiry center information, as well as our main landing page for our life safety and security website. So with that, I think we're done with that section of the presentation. I see a question that came in. A question that was provided was, is Intertek actually going into the standards? I'm sorry, let me reread this. I'm sorry. Are we going to actually get into what the standards will be? Yes, we did provide a very high-level summary of some of the changes that occurred in the standard. Again, what I would strongly recommend for your first pass would be to review, to download that white paper, which I believe is roughly 5 or 6 pages. It's actually a pretty easy read. And then from there, if you have additional questions, please reach out to us, and we will schedule some time on how to address your individual concerns and needs. Again, the intent of this discussion today was just to bring at a very, very high level. There are some significant changes that have occurred with this standard that are going to impact both the manufacturer as well as the integrator and the installer. And there's many more levels of the onion that could be peeled back, but that would probably be closer to a 4 to 8 hour webinar, and I'm the last person you want to listen to for 4 to 8 hours on a webinar, quite honestly. The next question was, has the 6th edition been adopted by the IBC or NFPA? Since the standard is not official as of right now, meaning the effective date of the standard is the December 2015 date, the 5th edition would be the acceptable norm today. Another question. The question is will the installer now need to obtain certificate for the installation of the access control system? That's an interesting question. Right now, what it's really going to be dependent upon is what jurisdiction are you operating in. You know, when we're talking about fire alarm systems, you know, there's only a few jurisdictions that would require this, or a few states, excuse me, you know, Florida being a big one, California, some pockets of Minnesota. It's really going to be dependent upon the authority having jurisdiction and what are their requirements. And the authority having jurisdiction as of right now would either be your electrical engineer, your electrical inspector, could be an insurance underwriter or risk management personnel. So you're really going to need to understand what market you're operating in and what are the requirements of those authorities having jurisdiction, because they will vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, let alone state to state. There was a question that was raised. Why are the customer, end user, and specifying engineer not included as stakeholders? The answer is quite simple. They are stakeholders. We were just looking to hit on the stakeholders that were on this call and a part of the ESA membership. So that it was more of a focused, more of a dialed-in discussion to the parties that are here and representative of ESA today. There was a question that came in, where can I purchase the standards? You can go directly to the Underwriters Laboratory standard. If you want, one of the things that you could do, which is very easy, is just simply Google UL 294 6th edition, and the search engine will take you directly to multiple locations where you can purchase that standard. Do you anticipate existing UL 294 listed reader products to be grandfathered and or accepted by AHJs, or will the reader products need to be retested and relisted? Again, that's a difficult question to answer because it's going to be dependent upon what that authority having jurisdiction is going to be requesting. I would anticipate in a majority of situations that there will be a grandfather period that is established and adopted, but you're always going to have those few jurisdictions that are quote unquote thought leaders, if you will, or more concerned about if something occurs in my jurisdiction and this product or products aren't tested and certified to the newest edition of the standard, am I going to be liable? So again, this is going to get back into what is that local jurisdiction looking for, what are they requiring, and then unfortunately you're going to have to meet those requirements that are set forth by that local AHJ. You know, at the end of the day, there's tens of thousands of AHJs across the United States. Everyone has their own thought process and their own way of moving forward in what they think is going to be their the lowest avenue to liability. So I apologize I can't speak closer to that, but again, it's going to really be dependent from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There's a question that came up that says, can my lab be accredited to run UL 294 tests so we can certify them ourselves? The short answer to that is yes. Intertek does operate what we call a data acceptance program. And what that entails is representatives from our organization coming out, reviewing your staff, reviewing their expertise, reviewing your equipment, your processes, your procedures, and going into what's kind of a round-robin type testing where you would test the product, send it to us, we would test it, verify the results, etc. So that is something that is out there. We call that our satellite data acceptance program, and that is something that is out there for you today. I do want to caution, though, when we're talking to that type of standard or that type of program, that in the United States, you will not have an issue with that type of program. But if you are also selling your product globally, you will have issues entering the Middle East because the Middle East, specifically Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, have put forth additional requirements that require the product to actually be tested in an accredited, registered third-party laboratory. So data acceptance for a U.S. and Canadian market, not a problem. If you are a truly global organization, we would need to have some additional discussions. And I think that is about it on the questions. Jacqueline?
Okay, yep, that looks like we're about done with those questions. Thank you again, Tom, for the informative content. As mentioned, webinar attendees will receive a follow-up email with a link to download the white paper Tom referenced during the presentation. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that a recording of this webinar will be available in the online members-only resource library at esaweb.org, and CE credits are available as well for attendance to this webinar. Please refer to the follow-up email for further instruction. Lastly, we'd like to extend the invite to everyone to register for the 2014 Leadership Summit on January 19th through the 22nd in Orlando. This summit does distinguish itself by giving you content you can't get anywhere else. So we encourage you to take the opportunity to link up with other industry professionals, learn from experts outside the security industry, and lead your company with actionable takeaways. So please visit esa-summit.com for more information. Once again, we'd like to thank Intertek for sponsoring this webinar, and we'd like to thank all of our attendees for taking the time to join us. We hope you found the content useful, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.